Baby Audio dropped their free plugin for 2022 and it is called Pitch Drift. It is a pitch fluctuating plugin that gives you sort of that analog character to any sound you add it to. It gives you sort of that pitch wobble that you hear in a lot of trap beats and especially a lot of lo-fi beats as well. So it kind of brings up an interesting topic about plugins in general, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Baby Audio for the past couple of years has been dropping free plugins like this one. They all follow the same structure. It's a very clean UI, and it usually focuses on one particular effect that you can apply to your sound. And usually it's pulled from one of their premium plugins. So the premium plugins has multiple effects built into them. So they'll pull out one of those module effects and pop it into its own plugin that we get free once a year. So Pitch Drift is a simple plugin to use. One, it's resizable, so you could just drag this out like this and you can resize the plugin if you like. Two, there's only two parameters to adjust: the speed at which your pitch shifting is happening. So the rate of the LFO, the higher the amount, the crazier sound will sort of wobble and get out of tune. And the amount right here, which is basically your mix level. The higher the number, you'll see this sort of graphic over here moving like crazy. That means more pitch deviation is happening. So you see how the sound sort of gets wobbled a bit. That's what's doing to your sound. It's giving you that analog character. Now we can change the speed to make it even more drastic. And with it off, it sounds like that. Now you're probably going to want to use this plugin on a lot of your melodies and possibly piano lines. If you think to Drake's song Going Bad with Meek Mill, that piano melody in that track, this effect is what took that piano and gave it that character, gave it that sauce that sort of made it unique to that song. If you heard that piano in its dry format, it sounds completely different, not as cool. Metro Boomin, if you listen to the latest album, Heroes and Villains, uses this effect on a lot of bell patterns that he put in, pianos, pads. It just gives it this analog detune flavor that really warms up the sound and makes all your computer sounds a little bit more analog-y, if that makes sense. But think about plugins, and this is something I think about all the time when I see a new plugin gets dropped or released, whether it's free or a premium plugin. As producers, you know, we're lured to them. We want to get them. We want to try them out. But you really have to stop and think and ask yourself, is this really good for my workflow? For instance, now I'm not saying Pitch Drift is not good. It is good to have and it's free. So you should click the link down below and just grab it, cop it. You'll also get access to all of the other Baby Audio free plugins that they've dropped over the recent years, which by the way, last year's was one of my favorite and I do use it quite a bit. It is Magic Dice. And it's just like a random effect generator. Now this one just has one effect, Pitch Drift, but Magic Dice has a bunch of effects in the background. And every time you hit this dice, it gives you a different sort of effect chain. So listen how cool it sounds. Now, Pitch Drift, for instance, is an effect you can get quite easily in Logic. So if I go ahead and just bypass this, and we'll go to tape delay, you can create the same effect within Logic's tape delay. So what you got to do here is turn your tempo sync all the way down to 0 milliseconds. Your feedback, you want to turn to 0. If you want to have some dark flavor, you can leave this as is, but we're going to go ahead and open up that filter just like that. We're going to change our dry all the way down and our wet to 100%. And then the modulation is essentially what Pitch Drift is over here. So I'm going to turn our rate up to 1 Hertz. And this is the settings I like to use for this type of sound and effect. And I'm going to pull this up to an intensity of 30%. It's not drastic, but it gives you a nice sort of pitch shift type of sound that you want in lo-fi and trap beats. Right, so now I just basically recreated what Pitch Drift does in Logic's tape delay. So the question you gotta ask yourself when you're looking for a plugin in general are two things, or at least this is what I always ask myself. One, Is it something I can't do right now with stock plugins? 2, does it save me time? And the third question you got to ask yourself is the price. Is it worth what it is promising to do? So in this case, 1, is it something that I can't do in my DAW? No, because I can do it using Logic's tape delay. And a lot of plugins out there on the market today you can recreate in your DAW. So this one doesn't check that box. 2, does it save me time? Yes, it does save me time. If I want to go ahead and duplicate this sort of character to my sound over using pitch drift, I would basically just leave the amount 100. This is pretty much the LFO intensity. And I'm going to bring down the speed. Now it doesn't tell you the rate that is being played at, just a number value here. I found out that about 40 is this sweet spot that I use here in Logic's tape delay. So I'm going to go ahead and bypass this so we're not doubling it. So that's using pitch drift and using Logic's tape delay. So if you want to duplicate sort of my flavor that I like in Logic's Pro in pitch drift, that would sort of be your setting, 40 speed, and just set the amount to 100. Instead of me changing all those parameters in Logic's tape delay, I could just pull up pitch shift and I have that sound that I want right away. So it definitely does save me time. And the price, well, it's free. So it's a no-brainer. 2 out of 3 checkboxes were ticked. So I'm going to go ahead and download that plugin and probably enjoy it as well. So these are just the type of things that you want to ask yourself before purchasing effects plugins. Now, when it comes to instrument plugins, that is like a whole nother ball game because it becomes harder to replicate that sound in your DAW because the sounds that they're using may be different than what you have. So that's like a different story. But when it comes to like effects plugins, a lot of the times it can be recreated in your DAW. I may do a whole separate video about this topic in general, about how things can be replicated in your DAW using stock plugins, because I think the plugin market right now has sort of gotten a little bit crazy and it's oversaturated.